Good afternoon, folks. I am actually making a video about coming into your sexual power now. I've had a lot of precursors, a lot of concepts behind it, so that what I'm saying here makes sense, because I'm approaching this specifically from a DNRS perspective. So, and not exactly, like, not in terms of rewiring your brain, but in terms of understanding the brain's power, understanding how to get your brain on your side is kind of the purpose of this. I am going to be using possibly language that is not suitable for small children, so if you want to put headphones on, if you've got kids around, I highly recommend doing that. So, number one thing to understand here is that we are getting your limbic system. So this is for those of you who, well, whether you're doing DNRS or not, this is helpful information. The limbic system is the center for emotion, but it's also your survival mechanism center. So it's the part of your brain that's responsible for all of your emotions of every kind and keeping you alive. And it functions at the level, it's called the reptilian brain in some modalities, because it's responsible for keeping you alive. It's just basic survival mechanisms. That's all it has. It doesn't have, so they say it's at about 3-year-old level. It doesn't have anything sophisticated. It's very basic. So it's the part of your brain that would put you in fight or flight in a situation that is dangerous. That's the only options it sees. If you're in a dangerous situation, it has no creative, like you as a human, as an adult, you can have a creative solution for any situation you're in. But the limbic system is just going to be fight or flight. There is not, or freeze, but there's no other, it's not sophisticated. It's very young. So what we want to do is understand how you can get that little 3-year-old kind of helping you, because it's very, very powerful 3-year-old. If you have had kids, you understand that, or if you've been around kids, that 3-year-olds can either run your life, or you can train them so that they can actually be helpful, because they want to be helpful. And one key thing to understand here is that your brain is always trying to help you. This is something I learned it in DNRS, but Marissa Peer in one of her videos said it, and it was just outstanding the way she put it. She said, your brain is always eavesdropping. It's always trying to do what it thinks you want it to do. So whatever, and it figures that out by what are you giving your attention to, like literally moment by moment. What activities are you choosing? What part of that activity are you focusing on? What thoughts are you entertaining in your mind? What emotions are you entertaining? What are you saying out loud? It listens to everything you say out loud, and it picks up signals from all of these different areas. Your attitude, your body language, it reads your body language. Your own brain will read your own body language to figure out how you feel about something. So if you say you're happy, but you do it like this, yeah, I'm happy, your brain's gonna be like, bullshit, you're not happy, you're depressed. It can't, it's again, like a 3-year-old, it can't be tricked. So we're getting that on our side. When it comes to sexuality, but sex itself, like having sex, like it's a procreative thing. So it's related to survival. Obviously not for individual humans, but for us as a race, it's necessary in order for us to survive. It's also then, of course, related to food and sleep. So people who, if you're irritable because you didn't sleep well, or you're hungry, it's your limbic system. When you eat and you're like, oh God, I feel so much better, like I'm relaxed. It's related to survival. So when you have those needs met, it's calmer. So I'm going to teach you how to bring that power on your side. And one of the aspects to understand is that your sacral chakra, which is where you're creative, which could be, again, it's connected to your sexuality, but it's not like, it's like, I imagine almost like a yin and yang, like they're connected and they kind of overlap, but they're completely separate energies at the same time. Like creative energy is its own thing, sexual energy is its own thing, and sometimes they kind of come together to create something amazing. But they also have their own individual things. And that's all in your sacral chakra. And it's one of, like, creativity is also related to work and to fulfilling your purpose in life, like whatever your higher spiritual purpose is, which is something that makes us as humans feel very alive and very fulfilled. So between you have that and then your sex drive, which is obviously a very, very strong drive, and in humans in general. I know there's people out there, and I've been one of them myself, who sometimes it's not strong, and that's okay. But overall, it's a pretty strong thing. So you've got, like, that is your sacral chakra with those two energies in it of fulfilling your purpose and your sexuality, which is connected to survival in a really powerful way. that's a really potent combination. So that's a really powerful urge. It's a powerful drive. It's a really, really powerful desire and kind of just force within you. And when you are the one who's in charge of all of that energy yourself, it is incredible. So that's kind of what I wanted to, that's the whole point of what I'm talking about here, is how do we, it's almost like, I almost have imagined it like a missile. Like it can either you can be, you know, the missile goes and you have to go with it, and you might find yourself in the middle of a explosion or, you know, a shipwreck somewhere. Or if you are riding it and you're directing where you want it to go, you have a lot more power, which means your life is easier. You know, the more power, the more actual power you have as a human, like your real power, not power like people talk about power hungry or political power, but actual human power, our real power. The more power you have, the easier your life is. The more powerful of a person you are, the easier it is to get things done and to influence people in a positive way and to create order in your life. So that's the purpose of this video, is to help people move towards that. So number one, understanding how your sexual power works. And this is something that takes a lot of awareness, like everything when it comes to working on our inner world. Awareness is everything. You can only control, and awareness is, it's everything. It's, well, put it this way, awareness is the first half of the battle, because a lot of people are aware that they have a problem or that they don't, but they don't know what to do about it. So, but I guess it's a different kind of awareness I'm talking about here. It's awareness of where are you directing your attention when it comes to your sexual and creative energy. Because one of the first things you have to do is, for a lot of people in our world, it's a very common in our culture for people to let their sexual attraction to other people kind of run their lives, in even in subtle ways. And I mean, I think pretty much everyone does this in some way, unless you've consciously had to master it. I'll give a little example because it's such an exaggerated example. I didn't have a sex drive for a really long time because I had limbic system impairment. My hormones weren't working right, because the brain orchestrates all hormones, and so it was just not there. When it came back online, I was basically like a teenager in an adult's body. I'd never had that experience as a teenager, and it was horrific. Because I was like, well, I mean, it was easy to detach from because it was obvious that it wasn't me. That was the easiest thing. It was like, I am not this kind of person. I'm not this attracted to every attractive person I see. This is just my limbic system, you know, waking up, and I'm having to go through this experience that I would have gone through 10 years ago if my brain had been working right at the time. But in that situation, it was kind of an exaggerated response to any attractive man. I'm heterosexual, so it was like I had to put blinders on. Like I literally just wouldn't look at it, because it was just, my brain would go into like a crazy stress response. Just all kinds of adrenaline pumping anytime I even looked once, you know, just at like attractive man's face. That's all it took. It was like ridiculous. And that's a really exaggerated example, but in subtle ways, I think in our world where it's kind of accepted or encouraged that we have, crushes on people, or you notice people, or you watch certain things, and you just kind of want to enjoy the person's attractiveness. And while again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, the idea is that if you need to be the one in charge of that, because if you find yourself doing that almost on autopilot and you'd rather be focusing elsewhere, like sometimes, people will say if you're in school, maybe you didn't do well in a class because there was a cute kid, like a cute girl or a cute boy in your class, and you're distracted by that, which in school, that makes sense. You haven't mastered that, but that still happens to adults. And this is where, again, you have the power to say, I'm putting on a blinder and I'm not going to look. I don't want to feel that adrenaline response. I don't want my attention going there. So there's an aspect of this that is a choice to say, I'd rather not I see everyone the same and keep that energy for me, because everything is energy. And if you're letting that energy kind of be taken from you without your permission, you're giving your power away. That's what it means to give your power away. You're letting your attention be drawn by something that you didn't choose. That's giving your power away. So I had to train myself very, very intensely over a period of time, and it took so much repetition. And I think that's in my situation, because I was rewiring my brain. It was an exaggerated example of, I think, what would be normal. But for anyone who wants to truly be in charge of that power, it's really important to really become aware of when your attention is being drawn. Why are you doing certain things? Why are you going to certain places? How much of your energy is and again, it's so much, doesn't have anything to do with anything, but did I intentionally choose to do this? Did I intentionally choose to enjoy this beautiful person? Or was my attention like, That's the difference. That's all that matters, is did I choose it or not? Because if you want to own your sexual power, you've got to take it back on purpose. And eventually you can get to a place where you can consciously and respectfully of your own power and your own choice enjoy someone else being beautiful. But it's so different in that situation because you made a choice and it was your choice. And it feels very different. It's a much calmer, fuller feeling than kind of the adrenaline-based feeling that we get when we're just find someone attractive and we don't own that power, and it just makes us, that's why so many people feel so nervous talking to someone who's attractive, because that part of your brain is active. It's also the control center for your emotions, and it will get that adrenaline pumping like that lickety split if you're not in charge of that. And so this is also a great way to, if you want to feel more confident around attractive people, here's your ticket. So also your thoughts, again, if you have ever been, and I think, again, this is something that happens more often with limbic system impairment. I just know this because I know a lot of people who do this. I've had it happen myself. Sometimes you can have a person that you end up having obsessive thoughts about, and you don't even like it. And I think if, depending on how many times you've been in that situation, you can either be like, okay, I've had this happen before, I know what to do. Or if it's the first or second time it's happened, you're like, oh my gosh, why can't I stop thinking about this person? But that's, again, where it's up to you to say, I'm making dinner right now. I'm reading a book right now. I'm at work right now. I'm running. I'm being creative and writing right now. I don't want to think about this person right now. They don't get real estate in my brain because I'm busy living my life. That's my brain. That's my real estate. And it's a matter of doing whatever it takes to refocus your attention on something that you actually want to be doing in that moment, and repeating that over and over. Eventually, because the limbic system wants to help, if you are directing your attention towards something that you want to be doing and not allowing those thoughts, that attention, that energy, even from like the kind of just the, whatever energy of attraction that can sometimes happen when you're in the room with someone who's really attractive, when you don't allow those things to occur and instead you focus all of your energy and attention on what you're doing, the brain will pick up on that. It picks up on all the patterns because it's really trying to help you. So it'll pick up on those patterns, and then it will stop. It will stop with the obsessive thoughts. Your energy will stop leaving you without your permission, and you'll be left with all of your attention and all of your energy. And the beautiful part is that energy is still, again, part of your sexuality, but you've harnessed it for yourself. So then when you actually do go to have an encounter with someone that you are actually interested in, you'll be fully present to them. You won't get distracted by some other cute person in the restaurant or blah, blah, blah. You will have all of your attention for the person you actually want to be putting it toward, which again is a really nice feeling. So that's number one, is kind of your thoughts, understanding your thoughts, your attention, your energy, keeping it, putting up those boundaries and redirecting your attention as often as you need to keep your brain from going anywhere but to where you want it to go. Yeah. And then the beautiful thing, so once you've mastered that, and that could take, in my experience, it took me, and I had some different scenarios come up in which I had to train for this. So overall, it took me about 8 months to go from absolutely immature, like overdrive, exaggerated response in this area to like, I am completely in charge of myself in this now, and I can now go out in public and talk to anyone and interact with anyone, and that energy is all mine. It's completely mine. It never leaves me without my permission, which is an amazing place to be, by the way, absolutely incredible. But what then can happen? So 8 months for me, for a normal person, I would say probably between 2 and 8 months. It just depends on where your brain's at in this area. Possibly even more, again, depending on the person. It really just depends. But it takes that repetition over time to teach your brain, hey, this is what I care about. That's my power. That's the real estate in my brain. That's my energy. Those are my thoughts. This is what I choose to do with my life. I choose to focus it here. Okay, 2 is, now that it's yours, you get to do what you want with it. It's marvelous. That's freedom. So, and the beautiful thing, I'll share one small story about this. But the beautiful thing is, once that energy is yours, because it all comes from the same chakra with creativity, you can use it for work. You can use it for, whatever your creative endeavor is. You can use it, you can put that energy, because it's such a fireball of energy. You can really put it toward anything that you want to put it toward. It's completely yours. It's so amazing to have that. So what you'll find is then you have so much more energy, so much more focus to put towards your work, your day-to-day work, whatever your job is. You might find that it's easier to write poetry again. It's easier to just live your life, because and you'll find that you bring much more of a presence with you when you do this. You have a much stronger presence because you're owning yourself. Huge, huge, huge difference. And another thing, so this kind of relates to the whole self-trust thing. Your brain is, again, that 3-year-old in your mind, and it only calms down when you are really in control. It's like any other 3-year-old. When you discipline a 3-year-old regularly, say with, time, like misbehaving or something as simple as bedtime. But whenever, and I have 2 3-year-olds, so this is very much my life right now. My 2 3-year-olds, they like the parent who disciplines them more, because they feel safe. They know that there's somebody there, because there is some sense that they need boundaries. They are aware on some level that they are not mature enough to make their own choices. And so they feel really safe when there's a grown-up who's put firm but loving boundaries on them and saying, you can and you cannot do these things. And it's the exact same thing with your brain. It's the exact same thing with your brain. When you give your brain firm and loving boundaries, it trusts you. And then you feel so much calmer in any situation that requires you to be confident and present, but especially in situations where in the past, again, like talking to attractive people, you'll feel so much more calm and confident because there's no reactivity. You can see them just as a person, and maybe they've got a prettier face than other people or something, but it doesn't make a difference to you anymore. So you maintain your composure. You come across as a more mature person, because you are. And it just feels so freeing, because you can literally go anywhere in your life and know that you will be calm and at ease. And then when those situations where you are wanting to actually engage in sex or something like that, then you're also much more present there. You won't, you're so much more present with that person in a situation where you want that energy to go there. So regardless of what you're doing in your life, you will have so much more to offer, to put into your life, to create an amazing life if that energy belongs to you. So the last thing I want to touch on is, and this goes back to the video I made called The Origin of Everything, where I talk about how everything is spiritual before it's physical. That's the case with sexuality, and that was my hugest aha moment with sexuality, was that it's spiritual before it's physical. So femininity and masculinity are their energies before they are expressed. Obviously there's men and women, and we look different and we are different, but the energies of femininity and masculinity and kind of who we are as men and women, biology aside, is different spiritually first. So that can be used in a lot of different ways that have nothing to do with actual physical sex. And it's really, again, when you have more power, it makes life so much easier. I'm going to give you a couple concrete examples of that. One of them is people don't like, I imagine whoever's listening to this, you probably do not like being forced to do something. We don't like being told what to do. Most humans, unless you, like, there's a, small subcategory of people who are people pleasers who really do just kind of like to be told what to do. And then there's about 85% of the population that's like, no, please don't order me around. I'm not interested, especially as adults. So we can bring in this other energy, because one of the things that's involved with sexuality is a playfulness. And people can think of it as flirtatiousness, but it can be used in a lot of ways that aren't actually flirting. Like, one example, I use this with my kids. I kind of play them, draw them into getting kind of, it's a little bit more of a playful drawing than it is anything else. One time my son, one of my sons was one of the 3-year-olds, and he needed his butt wiped, but he was like, Mommy, I don't want you to do this. So I was like, fine. And I like made a sassy face and kind of gave him a side glance and then just walked off in the other direction, like with an attitude, kind of gave him an over the shoulder glance. And then we're at whatever room I ended up in, he came chasing after me with the butt wipes because he knew I was playing with him. And once I like kind of engaged him in this like sassy, playful way, he was like, "Oh, you're fun. You can wipe my butt. You can do this for me." But otherwise I would have had a 3-year-old, running around the house bottomless who just didn't want to be wiped. And, if you yell at them or try to hold them down, that's just not going to be as fun as getting them to cooperate on their own. Obviously this can play out in any, with your spouse or with other people. You can playfully or kindly or, if you use a little bit more actual emotional vulnerability in requesting something, that usually gets a much better result. And again, that's, somewhat tied into this is the ability to be vulnerable. And there's other just little ways. Like one of the things my husband did recently that I thought was really sweet was, again, scenario in the kitchen. You're in the kitchen making dinner, right? And there's, maybe 2 adults, so we've got 2 adults and multiple children running around. He needed to get something out of the cupboard. Now, given that situation, he could have gotten mad at me if he was stressed out and like asked me in a snarky way to get out of his way so he could get to the cupboard. What he did was grab me by the waist and move me sideways, kind of like, it felt just very nice. It was like, oh, I'm being grabbed by my husband, like, and kind of pulled sideways. Like, it was a nice feeling. I had no idea he was getting something out of the cupboard. I thought he was just being nice, and it was like, oh, I was in your way. I had no idea. But that's part of the power of it, is then I felt like I liked my husband more instead of feeling irritated at him for however long, because he was unnecessarily snarky towards me about needing to get a plate out of the cupboard. So there's just these little tiny ways where we can use that sense of playfulness and kind of almost flirtatious energy to make life more fun, to make life flow better. That's actual power. When you have actual power, you don't have to force things. You don't have to force people to do what you want. They'll do what you want because you're asking in a way that appeals to them, and then they want to. And it's a very genuine thing too. It's not manipulative. You're coming to them with the same request you would any other way, but when you present it kind of in almost a nice package in terms of your facial expression and your body language, it's appealing. And then they want to, and you can kind of you can draw people out instead of kind of like trying to yank something away from them in terms of getting them to cooperate or getting them to do something for you. It's more of a drawing kind of energy, where you kind of make an invitation and let them come to you with the service or the energy or the cooperation that you desire. So again, in that sense, you're creating a positive experience, moving towards a constructive goal. It's not manipulative. It's just playful and fun. And that obviously is across the board. That kind of thing can happen between friends, between spouses, between children and adults, and pretty much any human being. And it's just a beautiful aspect of life that, until like once I separated the action of being playful and sort of flirtatious from actually, from like sex itself and in the scenarios, because in our world, there's, not everywhere, but a lot of the culture has this idea that if you're acting in that way, that you're moving in the direction of physical sex or some sort of, something closer to that. And once I made that, like, kind of cut that apart and was like, no, this is its own thing. It can happen on the spiritual plane, and it can just be fun and innocent and make life interesting and easier. And it was like, wow, my life is so much better now because I have so much more fun. And I feel like I get to be feminine all the time now. I don't have to wait to be in that relationship with my husband where it's some sort of quote, culturally appropriate situation to be feminine. I can be feminine all the time in a flirtatious and fun way. And my friends enjoy it, and my kids enjoy it because I'm a lot more fun. And I have, they like, my kids like that. Kids like it when their parents are happy and playful. They really, really, that's what kids want too, is they really want a parent who's happy and who can play with them. And they didn't have that before, and now they do, and they're much happier. And we can even, one last thing, this video is getting a bit long, but there's one last thing I just wanted to touch on, because we can give one another gifts. And this is gold. Even again, because masculinity and femininity are energies and they're spiritual, like I've received such gifts of feeling respected, taken care of, seen and honored by my male friends from situations like that, just has built me up and given me such a boost as a woman. Like I don't even know how it's just this feeling of like almost spiritually being built up as a woman. And it was just by my male friends just respecting me and honoring me and taking care of me and are you okay? Are you safe? And are you cold? And can I help you with this? And honoring, whatever. Maybe giving me a genuine compliment about my personality or something. It's still a very, very genuine way to build up other people. And especially if you become that kind of person, if you become someone, if you take this sort of thing seriously and you become a person who is truly in charge of their sexual power, people know that. It's one of those things, energy doesn't lie, and people can pick up on that. And when you then give compliments and you want to offer a gift, it will be received really well, because people will know that it's coming from a person who's mature and knows what they're talking about. And that has a lot more meaning. And so there's a lot of good that can happen in the world, because we all need that. I mean, it's in a basic line. I mean, everyone needs love and everyone needs affirmation, and it makes people feel more secure and confident, which is part of what, again, heals the world and brings peace. So I think there is everything to gain from learning to own your sexual power, learning to, kind of making it your own, deciding this is mine. I'm not giving it away without my permission. So the three basic things we talked about, just to go over, were understanding the limbic system and its role in this, and kind of the survival mechanism, and then understanding how your sexual power works in terms of your thoughts, your attention, and your energy, and making sure that you're only giving that away when you want to. Understanding the power of your sacral chakra, your creative energy, and your sexual energy, and how they're connected. And when you take back all of the sexual energy that may have been leaving you before, you have a lot more to put into your life. Life becomes much juicier, much more interesting. You're more productive, more powerful, more present in your day-to-day life and the work that you're doing. And then it can really enhance all your relationships, because again, you're showing up with all that you are, whether you're a man or woman, whether it's, with your strength and what you have to offer as a man, or with your femininity and what you have to offer as a woman. You just you're much more present and much more potent in your relationships. So yeah, again, questions. I really welcome questions, because this is an odd topic. I feel like I haven't really heard other people talk about this, generally speaking. But yeah, and again, so much love to everyone. That's what I'm here for. So much love. Mwah.